Today I'm going to share my experience after switching to the Samsung Galaxy Z Fold 7, featuring a multi-generational leap in design, larger displays, ultra camera upgrades, and better performance. But some features have been removed. And after 4 weeks of using the Z Fold 7, I've got to say there's a lot I really like, but also some things that I don't like and that I think you should know about before buying. Let's start off with the good, and that is the brand new, amazingly thin design of the Fold 7. Now, if you've seen my unboxing video, you will know just how blown away I was by the super thin design. And oh my god, look at how thin this is. And I can tell you that now, even a month later, this design still impresses me each time I pick up the phone. And this matters because this is the first folding phone that I've used that when folded closed feels pretty much like a normal, large non-folding phone. With the Z Fold 7, it no longer feels like I'm holding two phones in one like it did with previous Fold phones. For example, the new Fold 7 weighs less than the Galaxy S25 Ultra and when folded is just about equally thin, coming in at just 8.9mm when folded and an unbelievable 4.2mm when unfolded. Check out the USB-C port, it barely fits on this phone. The hinge 2 is also redesigned, which is now thinner and according to Samsung also more durable, but we'll talk more about my durability concerns in a bit. By the way, let me know in the comments, have you ever had a folding phone or are you considering buying your first? Oh, and if you are enjoying this video so far, a like and a sub to the channel would be amazing. Turning to the front, the cover screen is now so much nicer to use. It is larger at 6.5 inches, so actually not much smaller than the S25 Ultra's 6.9-inch screen. But most important is that the cover screen is now much wider, and this makes it much more pleasant to type on, read messages, and just operate and use in general. And now for the piece de résistance, also known as the most important feature, and that is of course the main display. Again, another area with big improvements over the previous Fold 6. On the Fold 7, the screen is larger, now a full 8 inches versus 7.6 inches. It is super smooth at 120Hz, super bright at up to 2600 nits, and thanks to being OLED, colors look stunning. If you haven't used a folding phone before, let me tell you why this form factor is so special. Personally, I primarily find myself using the large main display for split-screen multitasking in various apps. It is just so nice to be able to run two full-screen portrait or landscape apps running side by side. Like for example, when I'm researching a YouTube video, I'll have my browser open on one side and my notes on the other, or say while I'm shopping, YouTube to look at product reviews and Amazon on the other side. Something you just cannot do in the same way or at the same scale on any non-folding phone. And then when you're just using one app, the 8-inch expansive screen really does feel like a tablet. Everything is bigger, icons, articles, images, text, it is just all a joy to experience. Games are also much more immersive too and really put you in the action. You can even partially fold the Fold to have it sort of propped up on a desk, say while you're watching a video and having a meal. And Samsung has a feature called Flex Mode where the UI will adapt to allow you to use your Fold kind of like a mini laptop. And then when you are ready to go out, just close the Fold and then continue where you left off right on the cover screen. I love this seamless ability to switch between the cover screen on a phone mode and then to this large tablet mode on the main screen. That really is something special. And then back to the main screen, you may have noticed that the underscreen camera is gone and we now have a more common pinhole camera. While the underscreen cam gives the display a more clean look, the image quality from the pinhole camera is significantly better. Check out this comparison. According to Samsung, the ultra-thin glass used on the Fold 7's main display is now twice as thick as before. And this is really good to hear, but to put this in perspective, the main display is still going to be much softer compared to a typical smartphone screen. For example, it is still possible to permanently damage it with just your fingernail, so my advice is to use it with a little bit more care than you would a non-folding phone. I am really pleased to see that the crease is quite a lot less visible on the Fold 7, especially compared to previous Folds, and this I think is going to be a big upgrade. Don't get me wrong, the crease is still there, but it shows less in normal use, especially with reflections or when outdoors, and the crease is also more shallow, so you feel it less with your hand as you swipe over it. But I was not so glad to see that they did remove a key feature from the main display, and that is S Pen support. While the Fold 7 never came with an S Pen, this large 8-inch canvas is the perfect form for handwriting notes or sketching an image with an S Pen. Now I will admit, I'm not one to do this often, but from reading your comments, I know that some of you do, and therefore some will be disappointed to see this feature go. And now I always dedicate a portion of my Fold reviews to the durability, more specifically the hinge, as well this is always going to be the weakest point of any folding phone. And durability is very important, especially if the phone costs $2,000. My initial impressions with the hinge of the Fold 7 have actually been quite good. I find that it's a little bit stiffer and really firmly snaps into place as you unfold it, and this does make it feel more sturdy. Additionally, Samsung have added an under-display titanium plate for added strength, and these I think are good steps to hopefully improve long-term durability. However, as a tech reviewer, I feel it important and partially my duty to tell you that any folding phone that you buy today, including the Fold 7, is simply not going to be as durable as a non-folding phone like the S25 Ultra. Now, I know people whose folding phones have lasted them for several years, but I also have a couple of friends whose previous folds started showing permanent display damage by the crease just from normal use after only 1 year. To be fair, for me, after a month of daily use, my Fold 7 has held up really well with no signs of damage, and I do believe that with some extra care, these folding phones can last. And I am glad to see Samsung's improvements to the Fold 7's durability. But for how this phone will hold up over the next year, well, for that we'll have to wait and see, so be sure to subscribe to not miss my long-term review video. Now let's go back to the positives, the cameras. The Fold 7 brings some really big upgrades over last year's Fold 6. It now gets a 200 megapixel main sensor like that on the S25 Ultra, which is a big jump up compared to last year's 50 megapixel sensor. And this here too is a really big deal because for the first time with the Fold 7, it no longer feels like you have to make a big compromise on camera when choosing to go for a folding phone. Overall, I'm really pleased with the quality of the images from the Fold 7. Images are rich in detail with high dynamic range and minimal noise. Colors are a bit more vibrant compared to, for example, the iPhone 16 Pro Max to give the photos a little extra pop. The ultra-wide lens too is improved. It now gets autofocus and better color reproduction to more closely match that of the main lens, and this makes switching lenses more seamless. To me, the 3x telephoto lens is a bit of an outlier. This lens didn't get any upgrades, and because the main lens is now so good, I found myself using the 2x crop mode on the main lens more, as this lens just often produced better quality images. I would have preferred it if Samsung, instead of including that 3x, added a 5x lens to get more zoom. Video on the Fold 7 has been great. 4K 60fps footage is smooth and sharp. While still not as good as iPhone video, it comes a long way to that, and again is very close to the very strong video of the S25 Ultra. With the Fold 7 being, well, a fold, you can get a live preview of what you're capturing on the cover screen, and this is handy for vlogging or taking high quality selfies. But what I really like most is his live shots preview mode. This mode lets you instantly see previews of photos as you are taking them, a fantastic use of this large display. By the way, this is one of the many tips and tricks I share in my Z Fold 7 First Things to Do video, in which you learn how to get the most out of this powerful phone, and I'll be sure to leave that video linked at the end of this video as well as down in the description. So the camera system on the Fold 7 is great. You finally get flagship cameras on a Fold. The only downside I would say is, well, this camera bump, or should I say camera hill. It is the largest I have ever seen on any phone, so you can see just how much this phone will wobble on a desk. Powering this flagship phone is of course a flagship processor. This is the Snapdragon 8 Elite that we also get on the S25 Ultra. But unlike the Ultra, due to its thin design, the Fold 7 does not have a dedicated vapor chamber. But to my surprise, performance seems mostly unaffected. For example, here in Geekbench 6, you can see that the Fold 7 performs similarly to the S25 Ultra with only a marginal drop. And while in real-world use, the Fold 7 absolutely flies. No matter how many apps I throw at it in multitasking or games I run at max settings, the Fold 7 more than keeps up, clearly with headroom to spare for years to come. An area that really took me by surprise is battery. So the 4400 mAh battery on the Fold 7 is the same size as on last year's Fold 6, but despite the Fold 7's thinner design and larger displays, the battery life is somehow actually better on the Fold 7 too. I get around 15% more battery life on the Fold 7 compared to the Fold 6, with the Fold 7 lasting me all day, ending with around 25 to 30% remaining using both screens, and lasting just over 10 hours in a continuous video playback test I did on the main screen. And this really impressed me, as these results are not far from the S25 Ultra. The Fold 7 also supports semi-fast 25-watt wire charging and still has both wireless and reverse wireless charging inside. I want to talk a bit more about software, particularly on the Fold 7, as Samsung has included some really neat features with One UI 8 to take advantage of this 2-in-1 folding form factor. My favorite of which is the taskbar. This is essentially a dock letting you super easily switch between apps or start multitasking through split screen to run 2, even 3 apps at once. And then on the web, like in Chrome for example, you get a true desktop feel with proper tabs to quickly switch between your web pages. Additionally, generative AI editing tools are even better now, like for example, removing objects from images or even reimagining parts of an image altogether. And Circle to Search is especially great on a large display like this. Not to mention, the Google Gemini Smart Assistant is a big step up from Bixby, letting you live chat and even share your camera to get live feedback. I'm also really pleased to see Samsung promise 7 years of software support and updates for the Fold 7. Of course, I do also hope that the hardware will last just as long. So this year, with the Fold 7, Samsung really have done something special. They have fixed what were previously some of the biggest compromises that you had to make with folding phones, and have created a 2-in-1 8-inch screen folding phone that when closed feels and looks pretty much like a typical non-folding flagship. And I can tell you, as someone who's used the Fold 4, 5, and 6, the Fold 7 for this reason alone really is a game changer. Plus, on top of this design, you get excellent cameras, performance, and battery life. I would say if you're willing to pay the high price tag of $2,000 and are okay with losing S Pen support and the under-screen camera, and most importantly, are okay with the still present questions regarding long-term durability, then the Fold 7 is likely going to be truly an excellent buy. And I think in this category of folding phones, the Fold 7 is your best bet. So there you have it. There is my full review and thoughts on the new Galaxy Z Fold 7. Let me know if you have any questions at all, and as always, I will leave the purchase links down in the description. And if you have just picked up your Z Fold 7, be sure to check out my first things to do video to help you unlock this phone's full potential, and also subscribe to not miss my upcoming Flip 7 review, which is going to be a more cost-effective folding phone. Very interested to share my thoughts with you on that. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video. Take care.